In just 4 hours' time from now, polls will open across the United States in the presidential election of 2020. As things stand, the last set of opinion polls show that Joe Biden had a 52 to 46% lead over incumbent Donald Trump. But of course, Donald Trump wasn't in the lead in the polls last time and actually didn't win as many votes as Hillary Clinton last time, but still managed to win the presidential election. How he did that and how he hopes to do that again, we will try and understand and explain for you in just a moment on BBC CWR. But as America goes into its final hours of campaigning, here's how the election is being reported in the United States.
The coming days are a test of American democracy. The world is watching live. America passes this test by staying tied, tethered, secured to the truth. America may fail this test if lying politicians and propagandists drown out what's true and replace it with what they want to be true.
We're creating the world's greatest economic powerhouse.
In 2 days, we can put an end to a presidency that has divided this nation.
We will defend the right to life, religious liberty, free speech, and the right to keep and bear arms, your Second Amendment.
In 2 days, we can put an end to a presidency that has failed to protect this nation.
The 2020 presidential race will forever be remembered as the pandemic election.
This election has already proved remarkable for the record number of postal votes and early voting going on in many states.
Not only don't we know who's going to win, have already voted, and some battleground states count early votes very, very slowly and late, we don't know when we're going to know who's going to win.
Well, that is how America is certainly reporting things, and that big question mark over when we'll actually know as results are announced, well, later on tonight, early hours of the morning, our time tomorrow morning. So let's get someone on who might be able to explain it for us a little bit more clearly. Trevor McCrisken, Associate Professor of US Politics at the University of Warwick, joins me this morning. Morning, Trevor.
Morning, Phil. Thanks
for coming on. And we are going to try and explain this as best as we can to our audience. First of all, looking back maybe at 2016 as a bit of a pointer towards 2020, Donald Trump was able to secure the White House without getting as many votes as Hillary Clinton. For people who kind of don't understand that and go, well, how's that possible? If Hillary Clinton got more votes, she should surely have won. But that's not how the American system works, is it?
It's not, no. Although the president represents the whole population of the United States, he's actually elected in what are effectively 51 different elections. So an election takes place in all 50 of the states, plus the District of Columbia, which is where Washington, D.C. is the capital. And each of those states, plus D.C., have a certain number of what are called Electoral College votes. And it's the way that those votes are distributed is mostly down to the population of the states. And so the larger states like California, Florida, Pennsylvania, the ones with the biggest populations, have the largest number of electoral college votes, and the smaller states maybe only have as little as 3 electoral college votes. So the distribution of the vote across the whole United States might be much more concentrated in 1 or 2 areas, and therefore give the national vote to one candidate, which it did last time to Hillary Clinton. But actually it's about winning those state-by-state elections and collecting a sufficient number of electoral college votes to have a majority in the Electoral College, and it's that indirect election that then leads to the winner. So there are 538 Electoral College votes altogether. So the magical figure that everyone will be listening out for is 270 or better. Right. Okay. And if one or other of Biden or Trump gets 270 Electoral College votes, then they win the presidency.
Okay, so that's the magic number, 270 tonight. That will be added up by the number of states each candidate wins. And as you say there, the most popular state, California, carries 55 electoral college votes towards that 270. It's largely thought that Joe Biden will win that because California is usually a Democrat candidate stronghold. So President Trump will be looking to states like Texas, Florida, Ohio and Pennsylvania. How's he performing in those states that he won from Hillary Clinton last time that you'd think he'd have to win again, Trevor?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's actually 6 states that Trump managed to win in 2016 that Obama, the Democrat candidate, had won in 2012. So if Biden can pick up any of those 6 states, then he starts to move the dial towards the Democrat win and towards Biden winning. In those swing states, it's very, very close. Although you gave that national figure of Joe Biden being what looks like a quite significant lead in the sort of pre-election polls, in those swing states, it's much closer, and the margins are down to 1 or 2 percentage points either way, depending upon which polling you look at. And so it's very difficult to call those states, and it might well be, as one of the people in your report suggested, it might be that this takes not just overnight tonight to determine, but perhaps several days, if not weeks, because we've had a significant number of early votes that have been cast. But bizarrely, even though they were cast early, they're often actually counted later than the votes that take place today. So the early indications are that Joe Biden has done very, very well on that early voting. But Trump supporters, Republicans more generally, are more likely to come out and vote on election day itself today. In states that count those on the day votes first, it's potentially going to look like Donald Trump's done very well before they start counting those early votes. In some other states, they'll announce the early vote tally first, and it will look like Joe Biden has done exceptionally well. So we might find that both candidates start declaring victory in some of these states, but then when the votes are actually counted, it could flip to the other candidate. So there's all sorts of possibilities around what could actually happen.
Machinations and shenanigans are plenty, indeed. I'm sure. And that's what's led to, as we heard from some of the commentators there, talk about the potential of this being a long, drawn-out process. And for many people's recent memory, they can go back maybe to the election of 2000, wasn't it, when Al Gore lost the presidency to George W. Bush on the basis of 536 votes in a state with a population of 20 million in Florida there, 536 votes that gave George W. Bush the win then. It's possible, isn't it, that both candidates will contest then the results in some of these vital, important swing states, and that's why we might not get a winner by this time tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In the 2000 election, it was only that one state of Florida that was in dispute, and the dispute was over whether recount should carry on, and it ended up going to the Supreme Court of the United States in mid-December. The decision was made to stop the recounts, and at that point, as you say, George W. Bush was marginally ahead, but ended up therefore winning that state, getting enough electoral votes to win the overall election. We're looking at possibly more than just one state this time where there might be a dispute over the outcome. And in fact, at the weekend, Donald Trump already said that he would be sending his lawyers in and mounting a legal challenge in Pennsylvania, and that's before the voting had even finished in that state. A lot of his concern is over the validity of the postal votes that are being sent in, when those postal votes arrive, and at what point they should still be allowed to be counted. In many states, you can vote by post right up to and including today. And so if you send in a postal vote on the election day and you've got it postmarked on election day, by law in that state, it has to be counted. But of course, it might not arrive for several days. The US postal system is pretty inefficient at times. And so it could be that millions of votes don't arrive until quite late. And that could make the difference because, as you say, just over 500 votes difference in Florida in 2000, we could be looking at similar margins in some of these swing states, in this election as well. So I think if one or other of these candidates is actually going to win this election with quite a big win, then we probably will know overnight. If those swing states are really close, and there's every indication that they'll be really close because they have been for quite a few years now, then perhaps we're not going to have so clear an idea, and it might take several days, if not weeks, possibly a couple of months before we have a final result in the election.
We are in for a long haul in so many ways. Trevor McCrisken, appreciate your time. Thanks very much indeed. Associate Professor of Politics at the University of Warwick. We will, of course, be on the air with you from 6 tomorrow morning, bringing you the results as they are announced in the United States. But obviously, as Trevor said there, whole pile of question marks. But those key states to look out for: Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan and Texas, which President Trump surely has to win if he's going to offset the fact that Joe Biden will carry the Democrat stronghold of California. We'll carry all those results for you, bring them to you as they're announced throughout the morning, tomorrow morning here at BBC CWR.
CWR Breakfast with Phil Upton.
BBC CWR.
3 minutes to 8, bit wet this morning if you're